All right, a new week. Here we are, Monday, with a Dremel in hand and the NCC 1864 USS Reliant model. Let's drill some windows because everybody loves that. So I've got a drill bit. This is the number 60, so it's a little bit thicker than the one we used last week. We're going to be drilling out these these windows on the bottom side of the primary hull, and this should be taken care of in quick order here. All right, so there's 6. Making a mess here. Flip this over. See, the holes are pretty clean. Make sure to wear goggles. I don't want to be responsible for your irresponsibility. All right, boom, done. Actually, while we're at it, top hull. Make sure to wear safety goggles. Boom, done. Photo etch. Okay, I'm all over the road with this one. We're just doing all sorts of weird stuff. We were drilling holes yesterday, and here we are today. I did start tackling some of the little pieces that we got to put on. So here's the back of the bridge. It's actually 2 pieces. There's you can see the door in there. That's a one piece, and then there's this overlay, which is the second piece. And then that's sitting on top of a piece of plastic, for part 2437, I can't remember. But you glue this piece on the back, which was the kit part. But you gotta sand that down so that this thing will be flush at the end of the day. And then carve out these 2 areas. Does this work? There we go. Come on. Got to carve out these 2 areas so that the light source, which is not even here yet, will shine through and illuminate those 2 little guys at the back there. We also drilled the top to do the strobe effect. Let's see, what else do we got going? On the theme of photo etch, there's the officer's lounge, Khan's lounge, what do you want to call it? All right, I gotta do this by hand. So this looks like a hot mess right now, but we'll get it all scraped out. But basically you have to carve out the back of the BC deck with a Dremel or whatever implement you want. And then put that piece in, and then we're just gonna putty the heck out of it until it's all flush and looking good. And right now it ain't looking good, but that's what we got right now. And fortunately, because it's photo etch, we can get a knife in there and clean that up and sand it down. So tomorrow this will look a lot better. And we'll just let that dry. On the not photo etch world, the chiller grills, after having been glued, we have some issues. Mainly it's lighting, and it has to do specifically with there's pits in the actual resin, bubbles, whatever you want to call them, and they're very apparent right now because I'm puttying them. So take a look at that. And they just need to be cleaned up so that they don't stand out, because those were really really amplifying the light. When you turn on the blue light behind it, it's like there's a spot and there's a spot and there's a spot and there's a spot. So we just had to fill those, and I'll do my best to mix up this color again, which I wish I had kept that, but I do have a ratio kind of marked down, and we'll sand those down and repaint, and hopefully those will come forth with success. So continuing on Monday, we puttied this up. There's still a little ridge on that piece right there where the photo etch hit the plastic, so we'll put a little putty on there and let that dry and clean that up, hopefully get it all flush. The little winglets here, we puttied these up several days ago, and so I've sanded those out, and this one looks good, so I think we're good to go. We just need to touch up the paint, and these are, I'm going to set these aside until we've actually got the nacelles attached to them and we can line it up when we're doing final assembly for the ship. This area needed, there was some cleanup that we needed to do down that spine. Otherwise that turned out good, and that turned out good, so there we go on there. Already did that one. Let's see, what else? The photo etch parts on the primary hull. Oops, because of the stand, I have to lift this off. So this is looking better. This is the third application of putty after putting together. Let's see if I can get the light a little bit better on here. Just a matter of making that all look flush so we don't see the photo etch. It looks just like a window cut in the hull, and when you take the time to do this, it looks awesome. Heavy sigh. Did you hear that? It also means we got to build out of styrene. We got to build an officer's lounge. I don't know how far I'm going to get into that. That was a intentional pause, ... But we'll see what we can do there, and we'll make it look good no matter what. That'll be actually with some warm white lighting in the ceiling, like right in that area. Let me get something instead of my fat finger. Like right in this area, we'll do some warm white lighting and then build up a sort of a flat surface from this edge to the edge. We can build a pretty simple officer's lounge and do something in there so that looks cool. And if we dim the lights enough, it'll look like something going on inside the windows, but we don't have to spend too much time on it. This is an interesting piece. This dot right there, I don't know what that's about. It almost looks like it's a marker light, but it's, you know, when you put the bridge on here, it's like you're blocking the con evil lights. You know, if you look at the front of it. Let me try to switch that around. You know, if you're looking at the front of that, it's like, okay, now you're blocking Khan's evil thing. So I don't even know if that worked. Sorry, it's an iPhone. So anyways, that's coming off. We're gonna scrape that off. We also have a piece of photo etch that's going to cover this. As a grill, actually a pretty nice looking grill, and I don't even know if this is meant to be lighted or if it's just a detail, but I'm going to research that because that could look pretty cool. If it's an exhaust vent, maybe we could light it. I don't think I'm going to do that right off the top of my head, but let me research that. The last piece here is the roll bar. I know, the camera, I hope you're not getting sick and throwing up. Let me put it back on here. Okay, there we go. So the roll bar, we've got a number of wires coming top and bottom, and then there's this top piece that assembles right on top of there. And let me get the light sort of in a better position here. So this particular seam right in there, that totally needed cleanup. And it's filing this area and this area and that area and that area, and then likewise on the other side. You can even see we still got some gaps going on here. I appreciate that they put a little lug on the front and the back to help align this, but the lug, along with just the rest of this, you can even see the seam right there. If I squish it together, it does a little bit better. But in the process of sanding this out, obviously we got a gap right there which needs to be addressed. So this is a work in progress, and I don't need to deal with this this is not affecting the overall, we're not waiting for this to be done. I'm just sort of picking on this, which sort of gets back to, it's like everything is haywire this week. We're working on so many different things. One of the things I do want to accomplish this week is the nacelles and assembly thereof. We have all the electronics in. We're painted on the outside. And so one of the things that's kind of a pain, focus, there we go. One of the things that you need to do is, in assembling the nacelles, all of these surfaces got hit by a coat of black and white paint for light blocking on the inside. And so now we're looking to actually glue them together. So we got to pull all that paint off, and either I use a X-Acto to just scrape it, or if I'm worried, in this case I'm worried if I'm worried about taking material off, which of course the X-Acto will do, we use our good friend acetone. And so right now I'm going to acetone the edges of this to remove the paint. And once again, we're going to have some theme music, so enjoy. Puttying and sanding. Oh Lord. Alright, so we got a bunch of pieces in motion here. We got photoetch here, trying to putty around there to make it smoother. And then on these little winglets, we're puttying and sanding and puttying and sanding. Nacelles are pretty much done puttying. Working on cleaning up seams on this guy. Sorry, I'm trying to briefly go through all the pieces in motion, and I'm not really focused on any particular sub-assembly. There's our parts drawer right now that are in motion. Nacelles, like I said, we're puttying the inside grill to get rid of some of those pits with the resin. Got that piece attached, and then there's a whole seam right around there. We'll have to take care of that. And then while we're waiting for all those things to dry, I got busy on the top of the saucer. We inserted the officer's lounge area. Come on, light. This looks terrible. There we go. And so we need to hit that with primer in order to figure out how good we did. The other thing is there's all the navigation lights, like right there, front and center. And then, of course, there's one up there and all the way around to do that. So while we were waiting for putty to dry, we got to deal with this area in that we got to create a little cavern, which is and will become the officer's lounge. And here's a warning, this program is going to delve into 3D printing just because I've been playing with it, and it occurs to me that I'm going to have to build something either out of sheet styrene or, oops, knocked the camera over. Sorry about that. Hope it didn't hurt. And okay, focus. There we go. Sorry about the noise too. So why not try to see if I can build a shape. I'm going to preface this with saying there is a huge amount of voodoo to 3D printing. I'm using PLA, but the, what do you call it? Not fiber, but it squirts out a strand of stuff and makes something out of it and then goes up a layer and does the next thing. What is that called? All right, that shows you where I'm at with the even the terminology. But when you get your first 3D printer, you figure out, first of all, how to put it together, how it works. Then there's a huge learning curve around the software, getting stuff into your computer from the internet, from some site or whatever where you download something, and then to get it to come out on your printer was quite a work of achievement. And I'm not going to get into any of that. I'm not going to get into the 3D program. I'm not going to get into any of that. But it struck me that I'm actually able to make some shapes. You know, I've been able to download some files, and you know they're not, you know, they when you first get them, you know they're kind of grainy. And so I can focus on that. You know, based on the 3D material, some of them have multiple pieces, so you got to like assemble it as a chip. Or excuse me, as a kit, and you know, then you put it together and you paint it, and you know, I guess it comes out all right. You know, some of these kits, and you know, you put some lights in it, and everything kind of looks okay.
Silence! You are guilty. On all counts, you are guilty. You will hang by the neck until you are dead, dead, dead.
All right, you got me. Sorry. Okay, so that wasn't a 3D print. Oh, that wasn't even funny. Sorry, Trelane. Sorry. Okay. Anyways, here's an example of a 3D print I downloaded. My dad loves Aston Martin cars, so I downloaded this Aston Martin logo and it printed out. And if you get really close, you can see it's grainy and might be able to put a good shape together. Here's another example of a Star Trek emblem engineering section, which is kind of cool. You can see all the different threads in here. Filament, that's the word I was looking for, a filament printer, because these are all filaments that come out of a spool of plastic, which it moltenizes, vulcanizes, turns into lava, and squirts in a particular pattern. And there's a whole process behind that. So there's that. Here's one for the command one that I literally just hit with some primer, but if you get close, you can see all the surface texture, which, you know, there's even a hole right there that, you know, it's just that 3D model wasn't, you know, wasn't complete. So then you get into the, okay, I'm going to open a 3D program and try to make my own shapes. And so literally the very first thing that came up in a program called Blender is a 3D cube. And it showed up. It's like the default, you know, this is your new file. And you either delete it and create your own, or you just say, okay, save this and let's go try to print it. And here it is. It's just literally a cube. And pretty exciting. Let me flip this up. because we're getting bugs. And we'll go to shadow, which you can probably see that better. So then you play with the program and you can start making shapes. You know, there's a cone, made that. And then you start getting into, okay, here's a cylinder, but we squished the middle to kind of turn it into a cup. Here's a little box. It was a bigger one of these that you expanded out and then sink the middle, and now we got a little box. The biggest thing I've printed is this. It's almost like a Cardassian coffee mug. So there you go there. So where I'm going with this whole thing is it's like I could glue a bunch of sheet styrene together. What we need is we need a little enclosure for the officer's lounge right there. So take a look at this. This is the 3D piece that I created with that program called Blender. And like I said, I'm not going to go into all that. If you want to dive deep, just look up Blender 3D, Blender 3D modeling, something like that. And there's all sorts of tutorials. It's a free program. And so this is what the shape looked like. And then I printed it, and so came out with a object that looks like this. And there's a, oops, come on, let me back up here a sec. There we go. So, and I'm trying to touch the piece like I'm touching my screen. How silly is that? So here's the piece. And I literally just took a ruler and measured here and here and here and here and figured out what's the depth. And that can't give me the height. So it always prints a skirt around it, kind of to help the printing process, but you just break the skirt off. And so here we have a little piece that should go like kind of right in there. Now we need to do a little trimming. So I have found this stuff very unforgiving in sanding or grinding with a file, so I just clip it. So I want to do an angle of about like that. And you'll notice that just flew off of there. This is a pretty strong material, and like I said, it's not very conducive to like sanding like you would styrene. It's just like too hard. So I'm going to do that down there too. So now we've kind of trimmed that off, and obviously it needs a little cleanup. But if you look, this kind of fits over and gets me to right where this is the piece I would have had to glue together with 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of styrene. And given the fiddling I had to do with the printer, I don't know if doing it this way saved me any time. I actually don't like the material, but the shape is fine. So when we flip this over and look into, well, you can't see this, but I'm trying to hold this all together with one hand. See if I can pick up the phone and get anything in there. You can maybe see that I have an enclosure, which actually isn't too bad, and given that we're probably not going to be super scrutinized in there, I can just paint that, maybe put, I don't know, a couple of people, maybe a couple of chairs. We'll have to see, but at the very least, I've got a light block that won't let all the internal lighting from the cavity of the primary hull to come through. The officer's lounge window that we took all this time to put in to show off, I guess, this. How silly is that? All right. Isn't modeling fun? So let's take on something else here. And about the 3D thing, 3D printing, that's total voodoo. And that was just, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have gone down that rabbit hole. It probably would have been quicker from my standpoint to just assemble it with sheet styrene like I used to do. But that actually seemed like a way to make this thing pay for itself. It's like, here's a $200 part. Woo! All right. So focusing on the next deal here, while we're drying, the photo etch sheet here has a number of stencils, masks, metal masks, if you want to call them, which are helping us drill holes for windows on a kit that doesn't do that. And even though there's no like piece of this photo etch that's going to be on the model in this world, the fact that we have a template to drill holes is magical. So I don't know if you've ever done the Star Destroyer, the Zvezda 2700 scale. You got to drill all of them out by hand, or the Polar Lights 1/1000th Excelsior. If you've done that, you know the pain, and you know magic. So what you got to do is you cut out these templates, clean up the burrs, and then literally we're going to tape this to a section of the hull. You can see our holes, and we got a Dremel with it's the same bit I've been using the whole time, the 65. Fits perfectly, and it's just going to guide us to drill out these holes. So let's get busy here. And depending on, sometimes it heats up and the plastic sticks to the bit. In that case, it didn't. You just got to stop between punches here. Kind of get that lifting off. Probably should have taped off that other side. Okay, so here's an example of a little bit of stickage. So I'll just use my fingernails and clean that off. If that doesn't work, then we just scrape it off with a hobby knife. And you just proceed hole to hole. These are mirrored, so when I'm done with this side, I just flip it and use it on the other side. And there's a similar piece for this section, and then there's one or a couple on this side, and then there's another one that goes around the entire front and sides of the saucer, so we can drill out all those holes, because the kit does not do that for us. So rather than you know what, let's do the background music thing. You don't have to listen to the Dremel, listen to music. This is lovely. And all those are drilled out. Just sort of move the camera here a little bit and back up and remove this. As you can see, got a little cleanup to do. Get some of those holes cleared up. There's definitely some plastic debris in there. On the other side, usually that needs a good old scrape because the plastic came in when we drilled through it. So that's how we do those. So take a look at that. That's butamus. Oh yeah. Who could do that without a template? So paragraphics, thank you. Half the photo etch on the actual sheet may be wasted, but no, it's not wasted. We got serious, exact, straight aligned holes for our windows. Thank you. So one of the dumb guy things I did was I mixed up this paint to paint the inside chiller grills. Oops, oh God, I'm already getting paint all over myself. And it was a custom mix of purple and blue and black to kind of get that color that we got going on right there. That's as opposed to, full black. So you can kind of see the color difference there. So we have some pits that we had to fill in, and I should have taken a look at those earlier. But long and short is I need to remix this color of paint and hopefully get as close as I can so that it doesn't look like it's painted on with a new color. So we had purple here. I'm putting some of that in. And then we had this blue. These are the Testers Enamels paints. I'm going to put a little bit of blue in there. And then black to just darken this baby up. So let's start there, since I measured this batch about as carefully as I measured the last batch, and see how close Scott's memory comes to getting the color we want. And actually this is looking way too dark. Yeah, that's way too dark. All right, we're going to toss that one and start over. So purple, and then a little blue, and then way less black. Just do a smidge of black. Let's see how we're going to do here. Okay, that's definitely much more in the ballpark. So I'm going to wipe this off a little bit and kind of do a real... Okay, so looking at this does need a little more black, so let's toss in a little more black. Trying to be careful. There's only so much paint in the world. Okay, so I am actually going to touch a drop of this paint onto this nacelle in a corner and see how the light hits it once it's paint on paint. That's too much paint. Okay, that is pretty darn close. So I am going to stick with that. Let's get all these capped back up, because as you know, anything that's open on the bench is always subject to the accidental tip over maneuver. Tip over and subsequent setback, depending on whether the tip over gets onto the model you're working on or just creates a enormous mess on your bench. So let me clean this up. We'll be right back. So now we're trying to paint over these pits that we filled with a little of the Vallejo putty, and just using this newly mixed batch of hopefully very close to the original product. And sorry that we didn't save the original color, because I know I threw out a bunch of it. well, certainly more than I needed for this. All we did was paint these little inserts on the nacelles. So we'll just touch this up with a paintbrush here, and it seems to be drying correctly to the right color that we're after. And hopefully we can get this detail painting completed. There's a couple more detail painting areas on the nacelles, like the control thrusters at the very back on the outboard. And then we got a little touch up to do, some scratches and whatnot on the base color that is around the rest of this. Hopefully we can get this all tidied up and ready for just touch up, and then close the nacelles up so we can move these forward to completion, so we can get those sub-assemblies behind us. So there you go. So we're getting ready to close up the port nacelle here, and I can't stress enough, it's important to test all of your connections before you seal this up. I literally found 2 broken wires just through the handling of painting and light blocking and etc. And had I sealed this up, those 2 particular areas would not work anymore. And although it's a pain to fix broken wires, it's a lot easier to do without having to saw the whole damn thing apart and fix it after it's painted and decaled and all that good stuff. So in terms of finishing this piece up, the big pieces are gluing this, the Bussard collector into its place, and obviously when we clamshell it, it'll do the rest of that. There was this white piece of paper that I'm pretty sure I put this into a previous video. This is a sort of a tent inside to diffuse the hotspots of the blue LEDs as they travel to the lens on the other side. And then one of the other things I found out is that through my light blocking of this area, I actually light blocked the entire top of the flasher LED, so it wasn't even visible. So that gave us the opportunity to sort of get a X-Acto knife and scrape that clean so that that light comes through. I've also for the piece of paper added this just a little area of canopy glue just to kind of secure it in place and keep it from, not that we're going to handle the model and be flying it around making noises with our mouths where that might shift, but if we ever decide to do that, we're okay. It won't shift out and then show us hot spots of the blue LEDs. Thank God. I look haggard, don't I? God, I haven't been on camera in a while. I look haggard. It's been a haggering week. Not because of the modeling. The modeling is what keeps my sanity. It's all the other stuff. They're called clients. Okay, stop. Anyway, so thought I'd mention, if you made it this far in the video and you're feeling saucy, go ahead and subscribe. You won't regret it. And if you're feeling half saucy, just like the video. And maybe leave a comment. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a positive comment, but leave the like and then leave the negative comment, because those always offset. Then you're at a neutral. And, okay, stop. All right. So milestones, what did we get done? Probably the biggest milestone in a week of just seems like endless details of puttying and sanding and paint this, paint that, and light block this, light block that. We did get the port nacelle glued together. That seems like the biggest accomplishment of the week, and it's not a great accomplishment because it still needs to be. It's not done. We got to fill and seam, and there's a real nice step on the bottom of the nacelle, so I have to grind that down and make it beautiful. And we'll just save that for next week, and then get we got to mount the little winglet in here and feed the wires through and get this all looking beautiful. And so that's coming up for next week. The other thing is we did actually start touching the primary hull. We got a piece of brass from photoetch, sunk in here and puttied, and I think After 2 or 3 times at that, we're looking good, but we do have to hit it with primer. That will illustrate any issues. As usual, primer is our best and our worst friend for that sort of stuff. Roll bar, we got that all sealed up. We got 3 LEDs, the SMDs mounted in there, and we got a trench, so all we got to do is start feeding some wires through. And this piece will probably be one of the last ones to go on, because we don't want to, first of all, cover up this with a roll bar before we're done detail painting that and decals, etc. And same with the underside of this. Right now it's just primered, but we got to deal with that before we put it on. Otherwise, doing this upside down in a awkward position would be not good. The other piece is we dabbled into 3D printing a little bit and created this little guy, which is this is the officer's lounge. Look how exciting the officer's lounge is. I do want to put a little detail in here, maybe a little like half high, kind of like on the 350 refit. It has a cast officer's lounge that you can fit in there. So maybe just like a little half height thing for people to put their arm on while they're drinking some drinks. The other thing is we'll need to do some lighting in here just to kind of illustrate what's going on and make it look like it's a habitable area. But it needs to be like mood lighting, because we don't want like lunchroom lighting in the officer's lounge. It needs to be mood lighting. So I'm thinking a SMD placed somewhere sort of off camera when you're looking in here that will illuminate it in kind of a warm glow, make it look inviting. Maybe we'll use some Starfleet colors. I might even look back into some of my old decals and see if I have some of those, like, visual panel on the wall thing that shows the Klingon ship that's approaching and everybody has to scatter and get up to the bridge. So that'll be good. So I think that's it for week number 4. And once again, much appreciation for you tuning in and spending some time with me. I did find, just through actual other work, these towels. These are off Amazon. It's called the Bloomin' Goods Disposable Bathroom Napkins, as I read it right on the little screen in front of me. And they're pretty substantial. It's like 12 inches by 17 inches. Let me back up a little bit. Oops, this direction, sorry. So they're about that big, unfolded. When they're in the packaging, they're kind of look like this as a stack of them. This is the good country club stuff. But I'm playing with these. The offsetting problem is it was $25 for 200 of these, and that's about, I don't know, roughly 12 cents a piece. So if I go through these as fast as I go through, like, I usually just get like napkins from our local grocery store, Kroger based grocery store, and those are like 79 cents for probably 500 of them. I don't know if this is going to be price good, price bad. I may like these, I don't know. I'm playing with them. Play with them yourself. Everybody play. So anyways, that was the last piece I wanted to say. Other than that, thanks for watching, and we'll do another video next week as we proceed on the USS Reliant. And stay safe and happy modeling.